There is a new website available called Upside of Down, which functions much like Facebook and is a support network for family and friends whose lives have been touched by Down syndrome. I posted a blog requesting input from other parents and received numerous responses. I felt the best way to fill you in on their experiences was to finish up with some direct quotes. One father wrote, "Parents need to be reassured their child is perfect as they are and are the same person they were before the diagnosis. Then they need to be referred to a family with personal experience who can provide empathy and support. I would like to be more positive about the medical profession. I really, really would. But having spent 2 months in hospital after our daughter's birth, my conclusion is that most of them just aren't up to it. They see the condition, not the person. I'm generalising, of course. Our paediatrician is wonderful and some of the Skidoo nurses were great, but on the whole they were unsupportive, negative, and I didn't want them around. So many just don't get the human perspective." A mother shared, "I knew prior to our son's birth that he had Down syndrome and had a great experience from staff at Auckland Hospital. What I would like the medical profession to think about is that their first remarks are often the ones people hold on to and remember. I also wonder whether the medical profession view Down syndrome as an imperfection when they should see it as perfection in its own right. An extra chromosome on 21 in every cell. How clever is that? The doctors should know it's okay for them not to have all the answers, but to open their eyes and see a baby first and a syndrome second. I would like them to be comfortable with the knowledge that life doesn't stop for those that have a child with Down syndrome. And whilst it is a different journey, it is a great one. It is all in their perception." Another parent wrote, "The paediatrician who broke the news to us was lovely. She waited for us to be together and was really gentle in her approach. She was sensitive in the delivery of the news and asked us if we wanted the info pack and said she would come back and check on us after we'd had a chance to process it a bit and answer any questions, etc. And she did come back several times to check on us. It was the quietly supportive attitude I liked. She wasn't pushy, but she made herself available to us. The one thing I really, really didn't appreciate came from our own paediatrician when I told her we were expecting another baby. She strongly suggested we should have an amnio so we could decide what to do from there. It was the pressure to have an amnio and disbelief that we'd go through this again, if need be. Her job's about helping kids stay well, not to challenge parents who don't see things as she does. It made me feel like she didn't value our daughter's life as highly as I did." One mother told, "Our paediatrician told me 4 weeks after, when I was still in neonatal, that the nurses thought our son looked a bit funny and they were going to do some tests. If this wasn't bad enough, there were about 4 interns with him and I had a friend visiting at the time. Obviously I was a mess, and when my husband phoned a couple of hours later, I had to tell him over the phone. The paediatrician should have waited until that night. My husband was there every night without fail. My midwife should have been told so she could have been there for support immediately. My midwife and the head nurse of the unit spoke to the doctor about his manner, and in all fairness to him, he apologised and was brilliant after this incident. He said he hadn't believed our son had Down syndrome, which probably attributed to his relaxed attitude. He came after hours on a Friday night to confirm the results and was amazing at this time. He's still our paediatrician and is great with our son. I could not have managed the diagnosis without my midwife. I found the doctors and nurses completely misunderstood my need for them to support me." Another shared, "I think it's important that you're told the news with your partner there. I was by myself and was inconsolable. A bit later, a paediatrician came round and asked if he could show my baby to some trainee doctors. I said yes, but then he started pointing out all the differences, the low set ears, etc. I felt like snatching my son off him and saying, 'Leave my baby alone.' I always look back on that time as very traumatic. I wish I had never said yes. I know that interns have to learn, but they should do it with permission in the absence of parents." A mother wrote, "The paediatrician and registrar were very nice and supportive. They told us we should enjoy and love our baby as we would have before the diagnosis. The only thing they did wrong from my perspective was to not wait until my husband was there. I think that's really important." Another told, "Our son was born in Sydney. I had no inkling anything was up until a young doctor came to check him because he had a low temperature. She asked me what the results of my MT scan were. My world stood still at that. I was on my own and couldn't understand why she was asking me. They took me to NICU, where a paediatrician checked him and told me that they couldn't be sure and not to worry because she'd seen children who showed more features of trisomy 21 and they'd been wrong with the diagnosis. Looking back, I think she was just trying to protect me. Nevertheless, she recommended a blood test. It was a long wait because the next day was a public holiday, so no one could take bloods. 2 days later, they took our son for a heart echo, and he was fine. Then the head of NICU, a number of interns and registrars came to see us. He told me there were ordinarily 10 obvious signs of trisomy 21. If he saw 6, he told the parents the test was merely a formality. With our son, he said he saw 5. In a funny way, that helped us. We decided there and then that our baby did have Down syndrome. If the tests came back negative, then we would say a prayer of thanks. In our heart of hearts, however, we knew. The staff and midwives were great. They organised a parent rep from the NSW Down Syndrome Association to come over and talk to us. That helped a lot. The most important thing she said to me was congratulations. I think she was the first person to do so. About 3 months after, I was chatting on the phone to the paediatrician who diagnosed our son. I asked her, had there been any other babies born with Down syndrome? She said no, which was the way they liked it. I was shocked and mortified and hung up. And lastly, a mother wrote, I knew as soon as I saw my daughter that she had Down syndrome, so my doctor didn't need to tell me. I told her. She made the effort to come and visit us twice a day while we were in hospital and took a special interest in us and how things progressed. It is important that the medical staff realise that this gorgeous baby is a person first and the syndrome comes second. One of the best things said was by a nurse who told me she was still my baby and that she needed me. It sort of made things click into place and made me come to grips with the Down syndrome. It's important to be congratulated after the birth of our babies. One of the paediatricians told me to be proud of her, saying the first year is the most typical. Just take her home, get to love and know her, enjoy your new baby. At this point, she is just like any other. Admittedly, they did more tests on her than any of my other babies, but that point still rings true. The first year is to be enjoyed.